Hello, what's up? You're watching David, the real Medvite, and today I want to talk about a little bit about what the whole GameStop stock thing. Although I don't really understand too much, I'll kind of just surely go over it, and then, as you see from the video title, why you should be a hypocrite. Yes, I'll explain what I mean by that. But these just yesterday or something like that. I don't know much about it myself. You can go look it up yourself. But basically, what happened with the GameStop stock thing is GameStop stock prices rose up, and before it rose up, there were some people that knew it was going to rise up because of whatever, and people just bought stocks, and uh, for whatever reason, again, it makes hedge fund people lose money, so they're really angry about it. And now you have groups like Robinhood, where this is the application you use to buy stocks, and some other applications too, where they just like not only shut down the ability to buy stocks from GameStop, but even they forced you to sell those stocks, right? Like they just straight up force you to sell stocks at a lower price, which is, I am pretty sure, very highly illegal. But um, and I have two things to say. Number one is that I think it's very clear when you see like how fast the U.S. government is moving to like make a just do something about it compared to any other crisis. Uh, they're just in one day, the U.S. government is already listening to what the hedge fund people are, what the rich people are saying, basically, right? And they're not really willing to, help you out on any other occasion, which is, very typical of them. The second thing is, I've actually seen today on Twitter numerous people claiming Wall Street bets, right? That's the subreddit where this thing was, you can say, orchestrated or happened, claiming those people are racist Nazis. Yes, I'm serious that these people are apparently like that, and they're the driving force behind, or one of the driving forces behind it, which is just, I mean, I'm not even gonna make a comment. I mean, if you actually believe in that kind of nonsense, you're a waste of space. Okay, you're stealing my oxygen, and you're wasting my oxygen. So, uh, I really cannot say anything about those people. Anyways, that's just all that happened. Now let me talk about why you should be a hypocrite. What do I mean by being a hypocrite? Not in the traditional sense. So, for example, if you say, "Oh, you should not rape people," and then you go the next day and rape someone in public, then you shouldn't do something like that. Okay, that is obviously not what I'm telling you to do. But what I'm telling you to do is that people will what people conservatives do this all the time, where they uh, look at a leftist and they see them going against their ideals to kind of attack the right wing and say, "Oh, you're a hypocrite for doing that." Um, I don't agree that's hypocrisy. I don't think that's hypocrisy. But even if it's hypocrisy, that's definitely, I think, we should be doing. And I'll explain what I mean by that. But I'll give this as an example. So AOC talked about the Robinhood app's decision to block retail investors from purchasing stock. Basically says that's bad. Ted Cruz says, "Yeah, I fully agree. That's a bad thing. We should have a hearing." So Ted Cruz just says fully agree. And look at what AOC responds with. She said, "I'm happy to work with Republicans on this issue where there's common ground, but you almost had me murdered 3 weeks ago, so you can sit this one out." Well, first of all, if you act like, first of all, AOC probably doesn't even believe this. Maybe she does, I don't know. But if you actually believe Ted Cruz wanted politicians to be murdered, then you're not even worth talking. You're not even worth insulting, okay? There's people worth talking to. Then there's people worth talking to, normal people. Then there's people worth insulting, people like Eric Ibarra. Like, these people they're not worth talking to, but they are worth insulting. And then there's people like you who believe this nonsense. You're not even worth insulting. In fact, you're not even worth being talked about. You're an insignificant worm, and you should go to a dark corner. You lock yourself in a dark room, Go to the corner, sit on that corner, and think about your life decisions, and just think what kind of a person you are. Just spend 5 or 10 minutes. Just reevaluate your life decisions, and maybe you can find something wrong. And by the way, stop watching this video. I don't want you watching this. Okay, so get away from me. But anyways, so happy to work with almost any other GOP that aren't trying to get me killed. In the meantime, if you want to help, you can resign. So people look at what AOC says, and they have many comments on this. They say, "Oh, that's hypocritical," or "Oh, she just wasted an opportunity by attacking Ted Cruz for political brownie points," or blah 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 blah. Obviously, what AOC did from this standpoint is completely disgusting and subhuman to you. First of all, what can you even expect from a degenerate e-girl like her? But from a strategical standpoint, what she's doing is actually 100% correct, because what she does is that she knows how to distinguish between a friend and an enemy, right? You have this kind of friend-enemy distinction talk, and I'm not very highly nuanced, but I have a okay idea of what that kind of just means. And what a lot of people miss about this is that they forget that inevitably things are done in a team. So you see these kind of like lame centrists kind of just post an image. I wish I could show you the image. I wish I had it on my hand, but of image of like there's like two kingdoms. They're separated by sea, and like on the left side is your kingdom, and the right side is like their kingdom, and like you have like the same exact institutions, and like your institutions are portrayed in a good light, and theirs are in a bad light. Basically, this kind of like us versus them mindset, and people criticize the us versus them mindset. You know what? Those people, don't listen to anything they say. They are your enemies, okay? They are the very people you should be applying the us versus them mindset to. Because here's a reality check. On a grand level, it might seem that way. In reality, it is not that way, okay? The people with the same exact institutions or whatever, two different sides, it is really us versus them. That is actually very true. It is a team fight. It's not like sports teams, okay, where you just, there's a difference between just blindly supporting a, like for example, if someone in my team did something legitimately wrong that just goes against a lot of the things that I stand for, like we stand for, whatever, well, obviously I'm gonna say, yeah, you're a dumbass, get away. We don't accept those kinds of people. But if someone just like even in a small way goes against the enemy's morality, there, I have no reason to just abandon that guy. But that's exactly what Cuckservatives do, right? If someone says something that in a way goes along with the party line, but then against the enemy it's just is completely unacceptable, you don't just throw that guy under the bus just for, oh, you know, we just want to be diplomatic. Like, you don't use that guy as a scapegoat and throw him out. You just say, what's the problem with what he said, right? If, for example, like you can think of it as like a, let's say a priest just says in a homily, this trans stuff completely unacceptable, right? And then some lip shit finds that and say, oh, that's unloving. You don't just you can't just throw that priest out. You have to say, actually, tell us what he said was wrong. If that bothers you, then you're the problem, not us. You are the problem. Okay? We don't have that mindset, and this is what is leading us into ruin, I think. Okay? Is that we lack this kind of us versus them mindset, this friend-enemy distinction. And we're not willing to be hypocrites. We're not willing to be bastards to kind of push our point. To illustrate further what I mean, what AOC said here, right? What AOC said here, I fully agree, but at the same time, I disagree with every single letter of what she said. Here's what I mean. Let me actually give you a good example. You'll understand this way. Let's say AOC says, I believe in the sanctity of human life. All human life has worth. We can't just kill a random person because we feel like it or whether it's advantageous for us or whatever. If AOC said something like that, I am not going to say I fully agree with that. I'm going to say I fully disagree with that. Here's what I mean by that actually. Is all human life important? Yes, of course it is. But You obviously don't believe that because you're an abortionist. You are for murdering babies. Okay? Number one. Number two, what do you even mean by that? All human life has sanctity. Here's what most of those here's what a leftist means when he says that. Destroy borders. That's what they mean. Okay? Or if they say innocent kids don't deserve to be put in cages. Well, yes, I do believe that. But what they mean by that is they're basically saying, oh, just abolish borders and let illegal immigrants come in and destroy our country. That's what they actually mean. So, of course, I'm going to disagree with what they say. Okay. And I will go one step further. And if a political enemy did something legitimately good, I don't see any reason. In fact, here's what I will say: I don't see any reason to just shake hands. In fact, when I see that as a sign of weakness. Okay, so if there's like this can go for anything. Like if you're debating someone and you have like two radically different positions and he starts agreeing with some of the things you say, don't see it as him just being like cordial or whatever. See it as him giving ground. That's when you should be pushing for more, because now he's letting down his shields. He's starting to become weaker. That's the moment you're supposed to push even more. Does that sound familiar with any of these things? Does that sound familiar with what I'm talking? Because that's exactly what the leftists did against the right wingers for the last couple of years, ever since I was even born. Okay, ever since I was born, this is exactly what's been happening between this in this climate. And of course, you will have people saying, "Oh, you can't do that," and the same people will say, "We fight a culture war." Now, is it good to be quote unquote hypocritical? No, that's a genetic fallacy, right? So, for example, if I said, "Oh, the Robinhood did it right because AOC disagrees with them or whatever," or AOC made this argument against Robinhood, therefore that argument is bad, so you should not make that argument. That's a genetic fallacy. We should obviously not make that argument, um, but in war, the rules are different. Just like how in normal life, uh, there are certain rules for life during peace, and there are certain rules for life during war. And all these people are saying we're fighting a culture war. If you think you're fighting a culture war, then you should be completely fine with playing a little bit more dirty. Okay? And I'm not saying go too dirty because we don't want to lose what makes us us, but you should be willing to fight a little dirty. Okay? You should be a bit of a piece of shit. Okay? Because that's actually what gets you things. Okay? Being that kind of a person actually gets things done. It gets whatever you're trying to you're trying to push to be pushed. Okay? And you can't just hide behind weak slogans like, "Oh, yeah, you're just being too political," or I mean, the leftists, for example, again, if a right winger was on Twitch, for example, gaming streaming website, and he was talking about politics, they will say, "Oh, don't talk about politics, this is about gaming." But now you look at the leftists, they've invaded Twitch. It's just a leftist hangout. All of these people are have a huge following and they have a huge fan base, and they just talk politics. And you look at the things they say, and it's like, am I listening to a mentally ill 5-year-old or am I listening to a 25-year-old adult? Like I don't even see the difference. Okay. And it's going to a point where you see like porn stars talking about politics. First of all, you make money from getting yourself drilled. Okay, no one should listen to a single word. You're literal human trash. You're worthless. Like no one should listen to you. Okay, and you're worthless not because of what you are, but because you made yourself that way. Okay, you're worthless because of that. And now cue all the people like, "Oh, but they're just the victims." I don't give a shit. Okay, I don't care. Okay, that's not a good argument. I've heard that argument way too many times. 95% of the time, that's not true. Okay, 95% of the time, at the very least, that's not true. Okay, so don't treat these people as victims. Anyways, they're not worth listening to, is the point that I'm trying to make here. And all right. So what I'm getting at is that in a war, the rules are obviously going to be different, and you have to play those rules. Okay. during peacetime, you obviously can't kill enemy soldiers, but during wartime, that's what you're supposed to do. Okay? Uh, and if you think we're fighting in a culture war or whatever, then, fight as if there is a war. Don't just say culture war and then act like as if we can just shake hands and be on the same side, because we are way, way, way beyond the point. I mean, just think of it. If you're a Christian, you're watching this, if you're watching this channel, you're most likely a Christian. You most likely have enough IQ points to know abortion, all of these things are evil. We live in a world where babies are being murdered every single day. We live in a world where monstrosities like men wearing dresses and entering women's toilets and people being forced to treat them like something that they are not, right? That is forced, that's a reality. We live in a world like that. We live in a world where all I need to say is the election. We live in a world where this whole Gamestop thing happened and everyone's completely fine with it and everyone's gonna forget in a week. We live in a world where the government can tell you not to go to church, but it's completely okay with you joining in protests against the government. So that makes any sense, right? So you can go to BLM riots or whatever. You can flip cars and you can burn buildings, but you can't go to church. We live in a world like this. We live in a world where I'm not going to say most, but a lot of our priests and bishops are bootlickers, and a lot of our laity are bootlickers. We live in a world where the quote-unquote respectable Christian agencies completely align themselves with absolute heretics, okay, and people who defend heretics. Do you get the point? We live in a world like this. Do you think that this is the time to be friends with the enemies? Do you think this is the time where we just want to go back to normal, right? We just need to go back to normal. Do you really think this is the time to be normal? If you think this is the time to be normal, first of all, you are the abnormal one. Second of all, you're a degenerate retard. Third of all, you are my enemy. And you are one of those people whose thinking needs to be deleted. Okay? It's the truth. It is the simple truth. And you're just a status quo defender. You just don't want to rattle the cage a little bit. You don't want change. You just want things to go bad and even worse like it is going. All you want to say, oh, guess what? In 5-10 years, pedophilia is going to be normal. You feel really smart for saying that. How about, here's a tip. Here's a friendly advice. How about you actually do something to prevent that from happening, you bitch? And if you have a problem with me calling you a bitch, then yes, you're a problem. If you're worried about me saying bitch than being worried about pedophilia probably being accepted in 5 years, which it's being accepted even today. Look at what Netflix did, okay? If you're fine with the world as it's going right now, but you're not fine with me saying bitch, then I don't want you, bitch. Get away from me. You're my enemy. You're not a friend of mine. And you are on the same team with the people who are trying to ruin the world. And in fact, you're against God himself. You're just someone who's lukewarm. And guess what Christ says about lukewarm people in Revelation? He doesn't like them. Okay? He'll prefer if you were cold. Okay? You should be either hot or cold. You're neither. You're lukewarm. We don't need your kind here. We don't want your kind here. And this is what people do this all the time. Like I see this thing all the time. Like even on a minor scale, like for example, someone who acts completely like a prostitute online, and you call her a prostitute, you call her a dog, you call her a bitch. People get mad at you for saying that. They don't get mad at that whore who has like a picture, who calls herself Christian, but oh, look at my profile picture. The profile picture, 80% of it is my titties. People don't get mad at that. They're like, oh, that's normal. That's just like healthy viral sexuality versus like, are you gay? Like, are you gay? Only gay people say stuff like that. That's number one. That's number two. You don't have any problem with that. You have a problem with me calling that person a prostitute. First of all, what I'm saying is 100% the truth. But second of all, don't complain that people are being sexually immoral when you spend more time attacking people, attacking sexual immorality. I see this all the time. And it's only the right-wing people, the Cuckservatives, it's only them doing this. Okay? I'm not saying, for example, I'm not saying like sometimes do people go too far? Sometimes have I gone too far? Of course I have. Okay? But if you will rather spend your energy defending the enemy and say, oh, you didn't attack them good enough, attack them better next time. It's like, bro, like, what are you even doing? Okay, what are you even doing? Is all I'm going to say. And I want to finalize this with this. I don't want to point out with this. I have a problem with this statement. If an injustice is committed against your enemy, it is still injustice. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. This is complete baloney. Okay, first of all, the people saying this kind of stuff, they want you weak. Okay, they want to pacify you. They want you to be pacified. That's number one. Number two, it's not even true. It is not even true. Okay, if an injustice is committed against my enemy, that's justice. Okay, that's mercy. First of all, you can even say, oh, maybe it's injustice, but it's mercy towards the people that he is committing injustice to. So first of all, he said if Biden really wanted unity, he'd lynch Mike Pence. First of all, no one should say something like that to a vice president. Like, in most contexts. I mean, that's especially, like, I don't like Mike Pence either. And in fact, you can even, like, actually, I'm not going to finish that comment, but people mistake the problem with cancel culture is what I'm about to get here. People mistake, here's the thing. People think, oh, good people are being attacked because of cancel culture. That means cancel culture is bad. No. That's not true. That's not how it works. Okay? That's like saying authority is bad because authority was used to attack good people. Well, that's a completely stupid argument. Authority doesn't become bad just because it's misused, right? Just like cancel culture. I think, my humble opinion, I actually completely agree with cancel culture. I think the idea behind cancel culture, first of all, is patristic, is antique. It's how order was established. If people went out of line, they were canceled. They were ridiculed. They were shamed into going back to the normative behavior and the good behavior. And sometimes that mechanism was wrongly applied. That's completely fine, right? Good institutions and mechanism can be wrongly used, right? Sometimes good people can be attacked through the mechanism of the church. Does that mean we should attack the church now? Does that mean church is evil? No, it's just being misused. Or authority, again, as I've said, authority is not evil just because it can be misused. It just means it can be misused. And everything can be misused. Zeal can be misused. Goodness can be misused. Justice can be misused. Mercy can be misused. Everything can be misused. So you can apply this argument against anyone. Okay? So injustice against my enemy, no, that's a cause for celebration. And I'll, like, actually, I'm not going to finish that thought. That's Fed Post territory. I don't think it's Fed Post, but I want to keep it safe. But essentially what I'm saying is, this is what I mean by you should be hypocritical, okay? If an injustice is done against my friend, that is injustice. If an injustice is done against my enemy, no, that's just him getting what he deserves. Simple as that. And again, if you have any problem with that, first of all, actually, I'm not going to say that will be too rude. So we don't want to be too rude, but you can go cry about it. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. You can go cry about it. And you can just go cry about it. I don't care what you have to say. But essentially, I think you get the point that I'm trying to make here. We really need to understand that we can't really negotiate with terrorists is the best way to put it. You don't negotiate with terrorists. Okay? You don't dialogue with enemies. And here's where it's going to get nuanced. And at times, this whole video, you guys are going to think that, oh, he wants us to go hardcore against people that disagree with us. No, not everyone who disagrees with you is your enemy, number one. There's a nuance here, right? So for example, with some people, you know that they're genuinely misled. They genuinely are just stupid and they have no clue. And maybe if you kind of point them to a good direction, they might say, oh, okay, I see now. Actually, okay, I always believed in this. They might say that, right? And they just didn't know how to put it into right verse. They just didn't know better. They just didn't know better. Okay? Some people genuinely don't know better. People like AOC, do you think she doesn't know better? She's a politician. Okay? She is a politician. She knows exactly what she's doing. You don't get to become a politician by just being a clueless person who just doesn't know better. You don't get into those positions by not knowing better. I can tell you that much. All right. And with some other people, you know that they're genuine. And with some other people, you know that they're a bunch of snakes. So and even with genuinely evil people, sometimes you can be merciful and nice even with them. You know, we have lives of the saints, of martyrs who were nice even to the worst people. And then you have martyrs who were not nice to the worst people. Okay. So both happens. Knowing when to exhibit which virtue is something dependent on wisdom, and that's something you can gain only by praying and reading wisdom literature in scripture and reading the church fathers. So that's a completely different category of its own, but essentially there's that aspect as well. So you can't, so don't just go and attack every single person that just disagrees with you, but do understand that this is the time where you have to become factionalized. Right? People say, oh, there's polarization. That's a good thing. That's what it's supposed to be. Okay. Don't ask me to be friends with abortionists. I'm not going to be friends with abortionists. I'm going to be radical. I'm not going to be friends with abortionists. Okay. So I welcome that polarization. I welcome that polarization on the sanctity of life, because that's what it's supposed to be in the first place. The fact that murdering babies has become the norm is disgusting in and of itself. In a world like this, you have to be extreme. It is as simple as that. And what do I mean by being extreme? Of course, lipshits will say, oh, he's Nazi dog whistle. First of all, stick it up your ass. No one cares what you think. What I mean by you have to be extreme is that you have to defend the Christian faith, and you have to follow Christ himself, what he says. And people will perceive this as extreme, and you cannot kowtow, and you cannot pussy out on what they have to say. If they think you're extreme, you have to say, well, if being extreme means following Christ, then yes, I am extreme. You have to just say that. It's pure and simple. You can't just say, oh, I'm not extreme, I'm just a Christian. No. That's not going to work. Okay, that is not going to work. That is a sign of weakness. And the biggest mistake is showing weakness to your enemies. And it's kind of what I want to end this video with. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. So thank you all for watching this. God be with you all, and I see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.